Hello my friends, hello beautiful people. Welcome to another exciting episode in our Photoshop design series. In this video I'll be showing you how I created this crypto flyer inside of Photoshop. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, now is the best time to do that. Without having to waste much of your time, let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is click on File and click on New. Alright, so I'm just going to come up here and I'm just going to input the name. So it's going to be social media flyer like this. I'm just going to add crypto to it. Right, so everything else there is the same, 5x5, resolution 300, and click OK like this. Right, so when you do that, you are greeted with this interface. So I'm going to make my foreground color. Just going to copy this color code and paste in there. Right, so copy and paste. So we're going to paste here like this and click OK. Then for this one, I'm going to use this color for the light. Right, that's my background color. So copy and paste and click OK. So if you've done that the right way, this is what you should have here. Right, so I'm going to click on adjustment layer, click on solid color, and yes, that's the background color. So this is the code. Right, so there you have it. So let's get busy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm heading over to my source file and bring in this background first. Of course, like you've always known, these images are in the link of the description of this video, so do well to download them, and so we can all use them along. Right, so this is the first image, this nice image of a crypto background, and that has a huge Bitcoin sign behind. So I'm going to increase the texture, also increase the highlights, and click OK. Basically those are two things I'm going to be doing. Right, so click this to make this way. I'm going to zoom closer like this. I'm going to mask it out. Click on mask. I'm working on the mask now, so go over to brush, turn off the cap locks, flow should be set to 100, opacity 100. I'm just simply going to do this. Right, in case you don't do it the right way, you can always Ctrl Z and just do it gently. Only this region is what you need to get rid of. Right, so when you are done, I also want to add some blur to the image itself. So click on the image and go over to filter and go to blur and select Gaussian blur. You can use my settings. I'm going to make the radius, I think 4x5 is a nice place to be, or probably stick with 4x5, 4.5 please. Right, so you have the Gaussian blur. You can turn it off and turn it on to see how much of the effect you have. So going over to resource file, I'm going to drag and drop the image of this happy guy, so happy, and the excitement is coming from what he's seeing on his phone. So it's very important when you're designing these things, you know the kind of images to use, right? The right kind of images. The images you use can actually determine how well your composition or how well your flyers come out at the end of the day. So it's very, very important, right? And most persons will always ask me, where do you get your images from? I get most of my images from Freepik, and yeah, from Freepik. I get most of my images from Freepik. There are other websites that I discussed. If you want to know and if you don't want to miss when I talk about those things, you can follow me on my social media handles on X and on Instagram, especially on X, where I discuss how I get these things done. Right, or you follow me on Thread if you're on Thread, Instagram Thread. Right, so I'm just going to use my brush selected. I'm going to with the color, I'm going to click 4 times. I'm going to change the blend mode to screen like this. Right, I'm going to add extra 2 more, so that's 6 times. Right, to brighten up the background because we need to create an effect. Right, so I'm going over to my resource file. I'm just going to bring in this guy here. So bringing in this guy, I'm just going to drag and drop inside like this. Right, drop inside like this, and I'm just going to place it here. Right, make a duplicate copy of it, Ctrl J, and I'm just going to move this to the opposite side like this. Turn it the other way around because I don't like the way it's looking. Turn it the other way around. Okay, so I'm just going to add blur to this. First I'm going to change the blend mode to screen. Change the blend mode here to screen. Right, select this and Ctrl T. I'm going to flip it this way. Alright, so I'm just going to put it at this angle because I feel this is the best angle it should be. Right, so now I have this way. Right, and I'm going to make an extra copy of this one, Ctrl J, and I'm going to select everything and group them. Okay, Ctrl Z. I'm going to add this to it too, so 4 of them. Ctrl G to group, and I'm just going to name this light. Right, so this is light, and you can see I have these areas, so I'm going to use my brush and make sure your foreground color is set to black and conceal these areas here like this. Conceal this area here like this. Right, perfect. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's focus on the image of the guy. So I'm just going to create a let me start with a color balance adjustment. Right, so I'm just going to make some settings. You can see it's affecting the whole image, so I'm going to right click here and create clipping mask. Right, create clipping mask, and I'm just going to continue with my settings in midtones. Please follow my settings. All right, so for highlights I'm just going to, and for shadows I'm just going to add some shadows to it, not too much, just so it balances with the background you have and everything around you. Right, it's very important. Good. So I'm going to create another adjustment layer, but this time I'm using solid colors because I want to draw some highlights. Right, so this is the light code which we used before, so I'm just going to click OK. Right, okay, nice. So right click and create clipping mask because we want it to affect the image itself. So I'm going to come here and change the blend mode to linear dodge. Add, invert the mask by pressing Ctrl I. Right, because we don't want it on the entire image, we need to specify the areas where we want it to be. So selecting the mask, invert this foreground color to white. Right, and click on B for brush, reduce the size of your brush. You can do that manually by using your bracket key. I'm just going to come gently and add some highlights to these areas, just like this. Click to add. Whenever you do a mistake, you can always do a Ctrl Z and re-add it. You can see I'm very gentle on the edges. I'm not doing too much, so I'm just going to go on and on and on and on, and add some highlights to these areas. These are places where the light actually hits, right? So I'm just going to go on and on. Make sure you zoom close. Most of you guys don't like zooming close when you're designing. Very important, zoom close. So I'm going to zoom close while I make my brush smaller so I can cover more grounds, right? So you can pan around using your space bar, and I'll just fade it out here like this. Okay, fade it out here like this, and I can zoom closer to these areas. Imagine if I didn't zoom closer, how will I be able to do all of this? So it's very important that you also make it a habit of zooming closer to do things the right way. So I'm going to make my brush a little bigger and continue on this part here like this. Continue on this part here like this, and let's light this image up, right? Add some light, 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 add some light this way, and I'm going to, yes, like this. I'm just going to balance off these areas like this. If you make a mistake, you can go over, invert your mask, just click on X and remove the unwanted areas you don't want, right? Remove all those areas you don't want. So what I'm going to do again is, let's see, this is perfect, and okay, click on adjustment layer and click on exposure. This is just going to be subtle, not too much. I'm just going to use it to add some extra shade of darkening to the image. Right click on it, right, draw this down, Ctrl I to invert the mask like this. Make sure your foreground color is set to white because you're working in a black background. Okay, so now that's too much. I'm just going to add this here, make it darker here. It's too much, so make it darker here. Reduce my brush. That's too dark, Ctrl Z. Too dark, Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z. So what I would do here is, this is before and after. I will just simply go over to my flow and reduce it drastically. So now that it's reduced, I can now come to these areas and add a little bit of shadows to these areas, right? Add shadows to these areas like this. To these areas, add shadows, add shadows. Yes, okay, so that's all I was doing. So this is before the lights and after the lights. You can see how much effect or how much difference that actually makes. So I'm going to click on brightness and contrast. I'm going to right click and create clipping mask. I'm going to increase my contrast to like 27. This is before and this is after. Right, I'm just going to work in on my contrast. That's all. That's all. Okay, so there you have it. You can reduce the opacity if you feel it's too much, and to this value here like this. So select everything and click on Ctrl G to group them, and I'm just going to name this image. Right, good. So moving on, let's go over to our source file and bring in some other things into this design. So what I'm going to bring in is this image, right? Just to spice up the whole design and all of that. And because the one at the background, we actually covered it up with this image of this guy, so using this to just compensate what we have there already, right? So Bitcoin, add some motion blur to it, right? So you can copy my settings, make a duplicate copy of this, Ctrl J, and move this to this point here, and flip this horizontally like this. Okay, make this slightly bigger. It's not slightly, just make it bigger, right? And also make another copy of this, but I'm going to add some twist to this. Ctrl T, I'm going to flip this horizontally, right? And I'm going to bring it somewhere here, rotate it again, so it's going to stay somewhere here like this. Probably rotate it again. Okay, good. But I'm going to double click on the motion blur, and I'm going to increase it compared to the others. Alright, so I'm going to make this distance of 96, and okay, so I'm good to go. Move it upward a bit, just a bit, and I think it's better this way. So hold down Shift, select all of these, group them, Ctrl G, and I'm going to name this Bitcoin, right? So a couple of things I want to add to this to actually modify it to make it nice, just like I did with the image, right? So where do we start with? Okay, so a couple of things I want to do just to modify it, and where I'll be starting from is my adjustment, right? So I'm going to adjustment layer, I'm going to hue and saturation, right? Since I want to affect the Bitcoin, I'm going to right click and create clipping mask, right? So I'm just going to bump up the saturation all the way to 100. I'm going to go to adjustment, go to color balance, do the same thing I did, create clipping mask, and I'm just going to go over to my yellows, for midtones, highlights, increase it for the yellows and add some reds to it. Then for my shadows, I'm going to go over to the yellow, just like this. Create a new layer like this, click on your text tool, and I'm going to be typing some things, trade, that's what I'm using. But you can see that my font, I'm not using the right font in the first place, so I'm going to use the font that I use, Angelic Child. So click on it, and voila. So this is Angelic Child. I'm going to close the space in between the text by using this, right? So Ctrl T, I'm going to make this bigger like this, right? Ctrl T to make and increase the size. I'm going to drop this down to -50 so that I have, okay, let me use -25 so that I have space in between the text. So I'm going to position this here like this, position this here like this, right? Before I make a copy, scratch that, delete that, right? So I'm working with the trade first, right? So pay attention to this now. So Ctrl T, I'm going to click on this icon here, which is going to bring up the warp. I'm going to use arc. I'm just going to set my bend to 20. This is how this was created. Very simple and straightforward. Make a duplicate copy of this by pressing Ctrl J J and double click on this, and what I'm going to write with this is crypto. So I have trade crypto, so let me arrange this well so the trade and crypto can work together effectively. Right, so I have trade crypto. You might have to reduce the size if you want. So you have trade crypto, and select the two of them, Ctrl T, reduce the size just so slightly like this. When you're done, click enter. Right, so now that you have that in place, you can go over and add some other things to this. So you have trade crypto. I'm just going to move it up and Ctrl 0 to full page. Go over to your text, or create a new layer for that. Go over to your text, and I'm going to type something else, but this time I'm going to type something simple. It's not really simple, right? But it's just instantly. But with this, I'm going to be changing dynamics by changing the fonts that I used. So for this, the font that I use is Bank Gothic. Is it Gothic or Gothic? Gothic, I guess. So I'm changing, sorry, that was a mistake. So Ctrl Z. Yeah, so this is Bank Gothic. This is how it looks like. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make it smaller. Right, so when I make this smaller, click enter. I'm going to space it out. So click here, and I'm just going to type 400. So 400 seems to be too small, so I'm going to use 800. Good, this is perfect. So I'm just going to bring this here like this. Trade crypto instantly. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the trade and crypto for instantly. So you know the drill, right? So select instantly, Ctrl T, click on this icon, and make sure it's set to arc the bench. I'm going to set this to 15 because the font is not as bold as what you have with trade and crypto. So it's just simple mathematics here, right? So trade crypto instantly. Yeah, trade crypto instantly. So I'm just going to type something else. So of course you should remove it from this and place it back here, swift and reliable. I'm just going to change the font to something simpler, much more simple, swift and reliable, like this. What you want to do with this is make this smaller, make this smaller, and push it upwards like this. Yeah, move it to this position. Yes, that's fine. And also you want to change this and use like a 75 so that you have more space in between the texts. Swift and reliable. Place it here. Great. So we have swift and reliable here like this. So I'm going to go over to my shape to my rectangle to normal shape to. I'm going to draw a rectangle here like this. Mask it out because we need to mask out this edge. Make sure your foreground color is set to black, and with your brush selected, push the flow back to 100. Make the brush slightly bigger and clean off this area like this. That was too much. Reduce the size of my brush, and this is what I want to achieve. Not too much, not too small, not too big. Right. So with this done, I'm just going to what I've created is a nice landing area where I can place my logo, so it won't get swallowed in the design. Okay, so click out, go over to my resource file, and I'm just going to bring in my logo. Okay, so you can see how before and after looks like, and you can reduce the opacity here to have something like this. So on top of this, I'm just going to create a color balance adjustment layer, and you can copy my settings. So I'm just going to increase the reds and add some yellows to this, to the entire image, right? Not just one image, I'm adding it to the entire image. Right, so this is how it's done. Right, every other thing is affected. Some persons ask me, how do I export? Now when you do that, click on file, click on export, and export as. Right, so what you should do here is quite simple and straightforward. Make sure it's set to JPG, make sure quality is set to great, right? Very important, great. And just copy my settings. All this stays the same. Convert to sRGB, and click on export. That's all. Locate where you want to save it on your PC, on your document. Like for me, I'm going to save this here. You just click on save, and Photoshop is going to do its thing and save your design for you. Right, great. And that's by the way. Alright guys, if you've enjoyed this video, first thing, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, a like, hit the like button so that YouTube is going to recommend this video to most persons. And of course, if you have any questions, drop your comments. Follow me on X. I'll be dropping a link so that you don't miss any updates as to how you can go about your designs, where to get your image, where to get your PNG images, or all those things that you may want. Right, so I'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Bye.